Let me share something that might stay in your mind for a long time. My name is Henry Sanchez. I'm 41 years old. I was born in Decatur, Georgia, and raised in a family where life looked warm on the surface, sweet tea on the table, big Sunday dinners, everyone smiling, but underneath, not everything was as honest as it seemed. By March last year, I had $12 million spread across 3 private investment accounts. Not from inheritance, not from luck. I built it myself. 15 years of consulting work, smart real estate flips in Atlanta's West End, and in 2021, a tech licensing deal that completely changed my financial life. $12 million. The strange thing, no one knew about it. Not my mother Eileen, not my older brother Gilberto, not my sister Courtney, not even my cousin Dre, who loved to call himself my day one. At those loud Christmas dinners where everyone asked for favors between bites of macaroni and cheese, they only knew one thing about me. Henry was doing all right. That's all I ever showed them. But last year something happened that made me want to know the truth about the people around me. I needed to see who they really were when they believed I had nothing left. So I decided to run a test. A lie. A painful, detailed lie. On a Tuesday night at 11:47 p.m., I sat with my phone and typed out a message. My hands weren't shaking, but my jaw was tight. Deep down, I already suspected what I might discover. The message said, "I need help. I lost everything. Someone scammed me and took my entire savings. I can't pay rent. I barely have food. I don't know what to do and I'm scared." I stared at those words for 6 long minutes. Then I pressed send. The message went out to every contact in my phone. Family, friends, old coworkers, everyone. And then I waited. Within the first hour, 47 people had read it. I watched the little check marks turn blue one by one, like dominoes falling. My cousin Dre opened it at 11:53 p.m. My brother Gilberto at 12:01 a.m. My mother Eileen at 12:14 a.m. My sister Courtney at 12:22 a.m. But none of them replied. I sat in my home office in Buckhead, inside a $2.3 million house that everyone believed was just a rental, and watched the silence stretch longer and longer. By 2 a.m., I had received exactly 3 responses. My barber Kevin texted, "Bro, that's crazy. You good?" My old college roommate's wife, someone I hadn't spoken to in 8 years, sent a prayer emoji. And then there was Bernardine, a woman from church I barely knew. We had only met twice at a funeral. She replied, "Henry, I only have $40 right now, but I'll send it to you if you need it." $40? From someone who barely knew me. I told her to keep it. Saying that almost made me cry. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. It was a Zelle notification. $500 had been sent to me. The name on the screen surprised me immediately. Beverly, my ex-wife. We had been divorced for 3 years. The breakup wasn't explosive or violent, but it was cold. Lawyers, accusations, and long meetings where 2 people who once loved each other sat across a table, speaking through attorneys. And yet, she sent $500. No message, no explanation, just the money. I stared at the notification for a long time. Meanwhile, at 6 a.m. the next morning, I checked my brother Gilberto's Instagram. He had posted a video from a comedy show, laughing loudly with a drink in his hand. He had read my message at midnight. My heart didn't break. It hardened. Let me explain something about Gilberto, so you understand why his silence mattered. From January 2019 to February 2020, I quietly paid his rent every month. 14 months. After he lost his job at the Fulton County Transportation Authority, he blamed his supervisor and said it wasn't his fault. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe he wasn't. Either way, I never questioned him. On the first day of every month, $1,950 went straight to his landlord from my account. I never mentioned it at family dinners. I never held it over his head. When he finally found work again as a security guard at State Farm Arena, I simply stopped sending the money and let him believe he had recovered on his own. Because that's what brothers do. Or at least, that's what I believed. The morning after my message, I called Gilberto at 9 a.m. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey," he said casually, like we were just talking about the weather. "Gilberto," I said, "you saw my message." There was a pause. "Yeah, I saw it. And Henry, man," he sighed, "I figured you'd work something out. You always do. You always do." Think about those words for a moment. "Gilberto," I said quietly, "I told you I couldn't eat." "Yeah, but bro, I got bills too. Dorothy's car payment is..." I ended the call. No yelling, no insults, just silence, because that silence told me everything I needed to know. 14 months of rent, and his response was Dorothy's car payment. I opened my journal and wrote one sentence. Gilberto has shown me exactly who he is. Then I called my mother. My mother, Eileen Sanchez, is the kind of woman who always has a Bible verse ready. For joy, grief, confusion, there's always scripture. She has sung in the choir at Greater Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church for more than 30 years. People there call her Mother Eileen like it's a title earned through faith and hardship. She answered the phone immediately. "Baby," she said warmly. For a moment I almost relaxed. "Mama," I said, "did you see my message?" "I did. I said I can't pay rent." "The Lord will make a way, Henry. He never closes a door without—" "Mama," I interrupted softly, "I need help, not a scripture." There was a long pause. "Baby, you know I'm on a fixed income. My Social Security barely covers my—" But I knew her finances already. Not because I snooped, because for 4 years, I had been sending $600 a month into her account to help her live comfortably. "Mama," I said quietly, "I send you money every month." Another silence. "That's different," she replied finally. "That's family. I'm family too." "You're a man, Henry," she said calmly. "Men figure things out." Something inside me became very still. "You're right," I said softly. "Men figure things out. I'll keep praying for you, baby." "Okay, Mama." And I hung up the phone. After hanging up with my mother, I just sat there in silence. I stared at the ceiling of my Buckhead house, the same house. She had never visited even once in the 3 years I'd lived there. The woman who gave birth to me had chosen prayer instead of help. And somewhere across the city, my ex-wife had already sent me $500 without hesitation. That contrast stayed in my mind all morning. The truth is, I hadn't spoken to Beverly in almost 8 months. After our divorce, she had even gone back to using her maiden name. Our last conversation had been a tense 3-minute call about paperwork from a joint account. 6 years married, a 7th year falling apart. Then a clean divorce, at least on paper. But there were scars left behind. Later that afternoon, I drove to her apartment in East Atlanta. I didn't call ahead. Maybe that wasn't the smartest decision. But I needed to look her in the eyes when I thanked her. She opened the door wearing paint-stained overalls. Beverly had started a small art studio in Kirkwood, and the smell of oil paint drifted out of the apartment behind her. "Henry," she said simply. Not surprised, not warm either, just acknowledging that I was standing there. "You sent the money," I said. She leaned against the doorframe. "I saw your message." "Everyone saw it," I replied. She studied my face for a moment. "Why did you send it?" I asked. For a second she didn't answer. Something complicated passed across her expression. Maybe old memories. Maybe emotions neither of us had completely buried. Finally she said, "Because one time in 2017, you drove 40 minutes to my job with a sandwich." I blinked. "What?" "You texted me that you'd skipped lunch and felt dizzy," she said calmly. "You didn't even wait for me to ask. You just showed up." She shrugged slightly. People remember things like that. I had completely forgotten that moment. I stood there, suddenly realizing that a small act from years ago had meant more to her than I ever understood. "Are you really broke?" she asked finally. And that's the moment I made a decision I hadn't planned on making. I told her the truth. Everything. The test. The lie. The 12 million. The silence from my family. I told her about Gilberto's excuse. My mother's scripture. The messages that never came. Beverly listened quietly without interrupting me once. When I finished, she asked only 4 words. "So, what will you do?" I hadn't thought that far ahead, but hearing the question forced me to. Before answering her, I realized there was one more person I needed to confront. My sister, Courtney. Growing up, Courtney had been the person closest to me in the family. She was 3 years younger, and when we were kids, we shared secrets, covered for each other when we snuck out of the house, and protected each other from our parents' rules. She used to be my person, but somewhere in her 30s, she changed. She married a guy named Ramon, a man with strong opinions about everything and a habit of making people feel small. Slowly, Courtney began turning into someone else. She started talking about energy, vampires, and low vibration. People. She built a lifestyle. Brand on Instagram, around wellness, manifestation, and positive thinking. 34,000 followers watched her daily. Posts about protecting your peace and attracting the life you deserve. But when I sent my message saying I couldn't even afford food, she didn't respond. Instead, she posted 3 times on Instagram that same morning. A picture of the sunrise with the caption, "Your blessings arrive when your energy is aligned. Protect your peace." A motivational quote. "You attract what you are, not what you want." And a video of herself meditating with the caption, "Not everyone deserves access to your energy." I took screenshots of all 3. Then I called her. She answered in the cheerful voice she used in her videos. Brother. Courtney, I said. Did you see my message? A brief pause. Yes, I did. That was 3 days ago, I said. Henry, I've been dealing with a lot myself, she replied. Ramon and I are going through. I said I couldn't eat. I sent you light and love, she said quickly. I was holding space for you. Holding space? I repeated. Yes. Courtney, I said I couldn't eat. And you posted sunrise photos. Silence filled the line. That's not fair, she said finally. You're right, I answered calmly. It really isn't. And then I ended the call. Sitting there afterward, I realized something painful. Courtney had responded to my message. She just hadn't responded to me. She responded to her followers instead. Next was Dre. My cousin Andre, everyone called him Dre, had been claiming he was my day one, since we were kids shooting basketball in our grandmother's driveway. He was the person I called when my father died. He was the best man at my wedding. We had always called each other brothers. Years earlier, when I was 26 and struggling financially, Dre borrowed $2,000 from me. He never paid it back. I never mentioned it again because I believed that was just the price of loyalty. Then in 2022, his barbershop in College Park started struggling. Instead of making him ask for help, I quietly sent $8,000, disguised as a consulting payment so he wouldn't feel embarrassed. He believed it came from a business client. It was actually from me. That shop was still open because of that money. So instead of calling Dre, I went directly to the barbershop. He was inside cutting someone's hair, laughing loudly at something on ESPN. When he saw me in the mirror, his smile faded slightly. Mark, what's up, man? He said. You tell me, I replied. He finished the haircut first. The client paid and left. Then we stood there alone. My message, I said. You saw it. He sighed. Look, bro, I thought it was one of those situations. One of what situations? You know, sometimes people exaggerate when they're stressed. I figured you were just venting. I said I lost everything, I told him. I said I was scared. He stared down at his shoes. Money's tight right now, man. The shop's struggling. The same shop I had secretly saved. I know, I said. And then I walked out. That night I sat across from Beverly at her kitchen table while she cooked dinner. She made jerk chicken and rice, something she always did when emotions were heavy. Her grandmother had taught her that food could say things words couldn't. You need to decide what you're going to do with all this, she said. I already know, I replied. What? I'm not going to fight with them, I said. No arguments, no dramatic confrontations. She waited. I'm just going to remove them from my life. Quietly. No announcements, I continued. No explanations, just distance. She thought about that. They'll notice eventually, she said. Yes, I replied. And when they do? They'll have to ask themselves why. For a moment she stayed silent. Then she asked me something I hadn't expected. Henry, why didn't you ever tell them about the money years ago? The question hit deeper than I expected. Because I wanted them to love Henry the person, I said slowly. Not Henry the bank account. She nodded. And now you know they didn't. I looked down at my plate. Now I know they barely cared about the person when the person needed help. The room became quiet. Years of history hung in the air between us. After a moment I asked a question that had been buried inside me for years. Beverly, why did our marriage really fall apart? She looked at me carefully before answering. Because you spent so much time protecting people who didn't deserve it. She said gently, that you had nothing left for the person who did. Her words felt like something I had known for a long time but never allowed myself to say out loud. And suddenly everything about my family and my life started making sense. That night after talking with Beverly, I went home and opened a folder on my laptop. Inside it was a list I had kept for years. Every dollar I had quietly given to my family. Not loans, not favors, support. Help they never even knew came from me. For my mother, Eileen, I had been sending $600 every month for 4 years. Not directly from my account, but through a third-party bill payment system so she would never see my name. Total, $28,800. For my brother Gilberto, I paid 14 months of rent after he lost his job. $150 each month. Total, $16,100. For my sister Courtney, when her car was repossessed in 2020, I secretly paid the reinstatement fee through Ramon's dealership contact. Total, $3,400. And for my cousin Dre, $8,000 to save his barbershop in 2022. Plus the $2,000 he borrowed years earlier and never returned. Total, $10,000. Across my immediate family, I had quietly given them $58,300. None of them knew. And when they believed I had lost everything, not one of them offered even $1. A week later, I scheduled a meeting with a financial consultant named Patricia Wilson in Midtown Atlanta. Her office sat high above Peachtree Street with glass walls overlooking the city skyline. I walked in carrying a folder. "Mr. Sanchez," she said professionally, "how can I help you today?" "I want to restructure my estate," I replied. She nodded and opened her laptop. "Do you want to add new beneficiaries?" "No," I said calmly. "I want to remove 4. She paused for a moment but didn't ask questions. People in her field had seen situations like this before. "Would you like to replace them with anyone?" she asked. I thought for a moment. Then a few names came to mind. Bernardine, the church woman who offered me her last $40. Kevin, my barber who at least asked if I was okay. And Beverly. "Yes," I said. "I'm building a new list." Patricia typed as I spoke, and for the first time since my experiment began, I felt something strange inside my chest. Not anger, not sadness, freedom. 3 weeks after sending that message, something unexpected happened. My brother Gilberto stopped calling. At first I didn't notice. I wasn't exactly waiting for his name to appear on my phone. But one day I tried to call him about a storage unit we both used. The call didn't go through. His number had been disconnected. Later I found out through Kevin that Gilberto had actually changed his number. Apparently he had been telling people that I was acting strange and going through something. I didn't reply. Dre sent a message saying we should meet up. I didn't reply. My mother called and left a voicemail saying she always believed I would do great things. I listened to it. But I didn't call back. Because by that point I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. And there's a big difference between those two things. Anger is loud. Being done is quiet. And quiet can be colder than ice. After the scholarship announcement, something strange happened. My family suddenly remembered I existed. Gilberto sent another message saying we should catch up sometime. Courtney tagged me again in another motivational post about family support. Dre texted that he was proud of me and wanted to celebrate. I read every message, and I ignored every single one. Not out of revenge, but because by then I understood something important. I wasn't punishing them. Punishment means you still care whether someone learns their lesson. I simply stopped participating in their version of family. And silence was the clearest answer I could give. Meanwhile, my life quietly kept moving forward. Beverly and I started having dinner together once in a while. At first it was awkward. Years of history don't disappear overnight. But slowly something different started to happen. We talked honestly. Not like two people trying to fix a marriage, but like two people who had survived something painful and were finally able to understand it. One night during dinner she smiled and said, "You know something funny?" "What?" I asked. "You tested your family to see who loved you without money. And? You forgot you already had the answer years ago." "How?" "The sandwich." I laughed. That tiny moment from 2017, the one I had completely forgotten, was the reason she helped me without hesitation. One small act of kindness had stayed with her for 8 years. That's when I understood something powerful. Real love remembers. It doesn't disappear when life becomes inconvenient. Not long after that, I tracked down Bernardine, the woman from church who offered me her last $40. Through the church directory, I learned she had a granddaughter who wanted to go to college but didn't have the money. So I quietly created an education fund for the girl. $12,000, enough to help her start her future. Bernardine will never know it came from me. Because true generosity doesn't need recognition. It just needs intention. These days my family is still out there somewhere, probably confused by my silence. Maybe they think I changed. Maybe they believe the stories they told themselves about me. But the truth is simple. I didn't change. I just finally saw clearly. I still have the $12 million. The scholarship in my grandmother's name is helping students every year. There's a woman who still remembers a sandwich from 8 years ago. And for the first time in my life, I know exactly who loves Henry Sanchez the man. Not Henry Sanchez the problem solver. Not Henry Sanchez the bank account. Just the man. And that kind of clarity, it's worth more than every dollar in those accounts.